The throne room of the Xinthian Empire glowed with pale blue light from the crystalline walls. King Verk sat upon his seat of carved stone, his massive frame rigid as he listened to the reports from his military commanders. His scales, deep purple and silver with age, caught the light as he shifted. The crystalline horns that marked him as royalty gleamed sharply above his angular face. "Your Majesty, the patrol fleet has engaged the Krell forces near the border zone," Commander Thane spoke, his voice steady but his eyes showed concern. "Princess Lyra leads the defense from her flagship." His youngest daughter was fierce and brave, perhaps too brave for her own good. She had insisted on leading the patrol herself despite his warnings about increased Krell activity in that sector. The Krell were ruthless creatures, massive and violent, who believed only in conquest and destruction. "Keep me informed of every development," Verk commanded. His deep voice echoed through the chamber. The hours passed slowly. Verk tried to focus on other matters of state, but his mind kept drifting to Lyra. She was his youngest of 3 children, the one who reminded him most of her mother. Where his sons were calculated and strategic, Lyra fought with her heart. She believed in protecting every citizen of the Empire, no matter how small or insignificant their world might seem. Suddenly, the doors burst open. Commander Thane rushed in, his face pale beneath his dark green scales. Several other officers followed behind him, their expressions grim. "Your Majesty," Thane's voice cracked slightly. "We have received emergency transmissions from the border zone. The Krell brought a much larger force than anticipated. They ambushed the patrol fleet with at least 30 warships. Her flagship took heavy fire while covering the retreat of the smaller vessels. The last transmission showed critical damage to her engines and life support systems. Then, the ship exploded near an uncharted asteroid field." He felt his hearts hammering in his chest, both of them beating out of rhythm. "Survivors?" he demanded, though he already knew the answer from the look on Thane's face. "No life signs detected, Your Majesty. Our ship scanned the debris field thoroughly. The explosion was complete. Nothing could have survived." Finally, Verk spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "Show me." He saw her tactical brilliance as she maneuvered to protect the smaller vessels. He saw the moment when 3 Krell destroyers focused their fire on her shields. He watched the explosion that tore her ship apart, scattering debris across space. "Replay it," Verk ordered. "Your Majesty, perhaps." The news spread through the capital city within hours. Princess Lyra, beloved by the people for her compassion and her dedication to protecting the Empire's frontier colonies, was dead. Citizens gathered in the streets, lighting ceremonial flames in her memory. The palace flags lowered to half-height. Verk retreated to his private chambers. His sons came to him, offering their condolences and promising vengeance against the Krell. But Verk barely heard them. He stood at the window, looking out at the twin moons rising over his world, and remembered Lyra as a small child, climbing onto his lap and asking him to tell her stories of the ancient heroes. "I should have forbidden her from going," he said to the empty room. "I should have kept her here safe." The official mourning period began, but Verk could not accept it. Something deep inside him refused to believe his daughter was truly gone. He ordered the search teams to continue scanning the asteroid field. He sent the best scouts to search every piece of debris, every floating wreck. They found nothing. Meanwhile, far across the galaxy, on a dusty mining colony called Carthan 7, a human named Ben Cooper was finishing his shift. The colony was small, barely 300 people, all working to extract valuable minerals from the planet's crust. Ben worked as a mechanic, keeping the mining equipment running and repairing whatever broke down in the harsh environment. He was driving his maintenance rover across the outer sector, checking the automated drill sites, when his scanner picked up something unusual. A heat signature where nothing should be. Ben frowned and changed course to investigate. What he found made him stop the rover and stare in disbelief. An escape pod like nothing he had ever seen before had crashed into the rocky ground. It was sleek and metallic, covered in strange symbols that glowed faintly. The hull was scorched and cracked, and smoke still rose from the damaged sections. Ben grabbed his emergency kit and climbed out of the rover. He approached carefully, unsure what he might find inside. The pod's hatch had been partially blown open by the impact. He pulled it wider and looked inside. A figure lay crumpled in the pilot's seat. Ben's breath caught in his throat. It was clearly alien, with purple and silver scales, sharp crystalline horns, and features that were both beautiful and strange. She was badly injured, with burns across her arms and a deep cut along her side. Her breathing was shallow and labored. Ben made his decision in an instant. He climbed into the pod and carefully lifted the alien woman into his arms. Ben carried the alien woman to his rover as gently as he could. She was heavier than she looked, her body dense with muscle beneath the scales. He laid her carefully in the back compartment and covered her with a thermal blanket. His mind raced with questions and concerns, but right now only one thing mattered. She needed help, and he was the only one around to give it. He drove quickly back toward the colony but stopped before reaching the main settlement. Ben lived in a small workshop on the outskirts, a place where he repaired equipment away from the noise and crowds. It was perfect for this situation. If he brought an unknown alien into the colony center, people would panic. They might call authorities. They might do things that could harm her before anyone understood what was happening. Ben parked behind his workshop and carried her inside. He cleared his workbench and laid her down on it, then grabbed every medical supply he owned. The problem was obvious. He had no idea how her biology worked. What if human medicine poisoned her? What if he made things worse? He started with the basics. Clean the wounds, stop the bleeding, keep her warm. Her blood was darker than human blood, almost purple, but it clotted similarly. That was a good sign. He cleaned the burns carefully and wrapped them with sterile bandages. The cut on her side was deep, and he used surgical adhesive to close it, hoping that would work on her skin. For 3 days, she lay unconscious on his workbench. Ben barely slept. He checked on her every few hours, changing bandages and making sure she was still breathing. He brought water to her lips, and somehow her body accepted it. He tried to give her nutrient paste, the kind used for people too sick to eat solid food, and that seemed to work too. On the 4th morning, Ben was checking her bandages when her eyes suddenly opened. They were golden and bright, and they stared at him with fierce intensity. Before he could react, she moved with incredible speed. Her hand shot out and grabbed his throat, lifting him off the ground with shocking strength. Her other hand produced a small device that extended into a glowing energy blade, which she pressed against his neck. Ben froze completely. He did not struggle or cry out. He just looked into those golden eyes and waited. "Where am I?" she demanded. Her voice was rough, and the words came through some kind of translator device on her collar. It glitched slightly, making her accent strange. "Carthan 7, Ben managed to say despite the pressure on his throat. "Human mining colony, you crashed here. You were badly hurt, so I brought you here to help you." She looked around the workshop, taking in the tools and equipment, the makeshift medical station, the salvaged parts from her pod stacked in the corner. Her eyes returned to him. "You hid me from your people," she observed. Ben nodded carefully. "I was not sure how they would react to finding an alien. Some people get scared of things they do not understand. I thought it was safer to keep you here until you woke up and we could figure things out." Pain crossed her face and she touched the bandage on her side. "You treated my wounds. I hoped that basic first aid would work the same for you as it does for humans." Princess Lyra of the Zynthian Empire. By now, he surely believes me dead. I do not remember the crash. I only remember activating the pod and then nothing until I woke here. Maybe we can fix something. Your people do not have contact with the Zynthian Empire. We have never encountered humans before. You have no reason to trust me or help me. I have never met an alien before either, but you were hurt and alone and I could help. That is all that mattered to me. Most species would have killed me, captured me, or sold me to the highest bidder. I figured that applies to everyone, not just humans. Your wounds are healing, but you should not move too much yet. If I do not return soon, there could be war. Then we can look at the parts from your pod and see what we can do. In the evenings, Ben would return with food and supplies, and they would discuss possible solutions to their problem. Lyra's wounds healed faster than Ben expected. She explained that Zynthian biology was designed for rapid recovery, a trait developed over thousands of years of evolution on a harsh world. Within days, she was moving around the workshop freely, though she still tired easily. "The communication array is completely destroyed," Lyra said one evening, holding up a twisted piece of metal that had once been part of her pod systems. "Even if we had tools from my people, I do not think this could be repaired. Your human technology is centuries behind Xinthian communication systems. No offense intended. It still functions, though at reduced capacity. Use your power to boost our signal strength. We are talking about hundreds of light years. If we can get a message that far, they could forward it. I cannot risk being seen by your authorities until I know how they will react to my presence. Those transmitters are much more powerful than regular communications. Nobody would miss it if it disappeared for a while. Ben looked at Lyra seriously. But I would have to steal it. I could lose my job, maybe face criminal charges. Ben Cooper, you have already risked much for me. I cannot ask you to risk more. Perhaps we should simply wait and find another way. I will get the beacon tonight. If anyone caught him, he would have no good explanation. He made it back to his workshop without incident and immediately began working with Lyra. They spent the entire night dismantling the beacon and integrating it with components from her escape pod. Lyra's knowledge of advanced technology combined with Ben's practical engineering skills created something neither could have built alone. By dawn, they had a functioning device. It was ugly and improvised, held together with adhesive, wire, and determination. But when they activated it, the quantum core hummed to life and powered the modified transmitter with energy far beyond its original design. It works, Lyra breathed, staring at the readings on the small display. The power output is incredible. This signal could reach the nearest major relay point. I will include my royal authentication codes and our exact coordinates. The quantum core flared brightly, and the entire workshop vibrated with the energy release. The message is sent, Lyra said quietly. Now we wait. Ben continued his regular work, trying to act normally while his stomach twisted with worry. What if the message had not reached anyone? What if it had been intercepted by the Krell? What if Lyra's people simply did not believe it was really her? Lyra grew increasingly anxious as time passed. She paced the workshop constantly, checking the transmitter every few minutes for any return signal. They should have responded by now, she said on the 5th day. Either the message did not reach them, or they think it is a trick. Ben was returning from work when he saw Lyra standing outside the workshop, staring up at the sky. He followed her gaze and saw them. Ships, massive vessels that appeared in orbit above the colony, their hulls gleaming silver against the stars. Xinthian scout ships, Lyra whispered. They came. After a tense moment, a response came through. The voice speaking was deep and commanding, clearly military. Lyra's face showed shock as she listened. She responded quickly, gesturing for Ben to come closer. She switched the translator on so he could understand. Princess Lyra, we are verifying your identity now. Stand by. There was a long pause. Identity confirmed, alerting the royal fleet immediately. Your father. Princess, your father is already in this sector. He has been searching for you personally. It was enormous, larger than any ship Ben had ever seen, with elegant curves and powerful engines that made the ground shake as it landed just outside the colony. The entire population of Carthan 7 came out to watch, terrified and amazed at the same time. Ben stood next to Lyra, feeling very small and very nervous. Colony Administrator Phillips rushed over, demanding to know what was happening. Ben tried to explain, but his words came out jumbled and unclear. I found her crashed, Ben finally managed. She needed help. I have been keeping her safe. Armored guards emerged first, their weapons ready, their eyes scanning for threats. They were massive warriors, even larger than Lyra, with darker scales and more prominent horns. They formed two lines along the ramp. Then King Verk appeared. He was imposing in a way that made everyone step back instinctively. His purple and silver scales seemed to absorb the light around him. His crystalline horns rose high above his head, marking him as royalty. He wore ceremonial armor that looked both ancient and incredibly advanced. His golden eyes swept across the assembled humans with an intensity that made Ben's knees weak. Lyra stepped forward. Father, she called out in her own language. Verk's eyes locked onto her. For a moment, the mighty king stood completely still, as if he could not believe what he was seeing. Then he moved, faster than Ben would have thought possible for someone so large. He crossed the distance to Lyra and pulled her into his arms. The assembled Xinthian warriors lowered their weapons, and several of them looked away respectfully. It was clear that their king was showing emotion he rarely displayed in public. Verk held his daughter tightly, one hand on the back of her head, and spoke to her in rapid Zynthian. Even without understanding the words, Ben could hear the relief and love in his voice. Lyra responded, also speaking quickly, gesturing toward Ben several times. Verk finally released her and turned his full attention to the human mechanic who stood nervously several feet away. Ben suddenly felt like he was being examined by a predator. Those golden eyes studied him from head to toe, taking in every detail. Verk walked toward him with slow, deliberate steps. Each footfall made the ground vibrate slightly. He stopped directly in front of Ben, towering over him by more than 2 feet. "You are the human called Ben Cooper?" Verk's voice was deep and powerful, translated by a device built into his armor. "Yes, Your Majesty," Ben managed to say. His voice came out smaller than he intended. "You found my daughter after her escape pod crashed on this world. And what did you do when you found her?" "I kept her hidden because I was not sure how people would react to finding an alien. I wanted to keep her safe until she was strong enough to decide what to do." "That was enough reason. My daughter tells me you built a communication device to help her contact our people. You used technology from her damaged pod and equipment you took from your own colony. Is this true?" She knew how the advanced systems worked, and I knew how to adapt the human equipment. Neither of us could have done it alone. The emergency beacon was scheduled for recycling anyway. But yes, I could get in trouble for taking it. That did not seem important compared to getting Lyra home. Ben caught his own name several times in her explanation. The king listened carefully, occasionally asking questions. The entire conversation lasted several minutes while Ben stood there awkwardly, very aware that hundreds of eyes were watching him. Finally, Verk turned back to Ben and gestured for him to approach. Ben walked forward on shaking legs until he stood before the king again. "My daughter has told me everything," Verk said. "She has explained how you found her, how you cared for her injuries, how you protected her from potential harm, and how you worked day and night to find a way to help her return home. She has also told me that when she first woke and threatened you with her blade, you remained calm and explained the situation without anger or fear. She woke up in a strange place with an unknown alien standing over her. Anyone would be defensive in that situation. My daughter says you treated her not as an enemy or a prize, but simply as someone who needed help. This is rare among any species. In Zynthian culture, when someone saves the life of royalty, it creates a debt that cannot be repaid with simple words or money. The debt is sacred and must be honored in a way that matches the value of the life saved. But among my people, this debt exists whether you wish it or not. I am offering you land on any Zynthian world you choose. I am offering you titles and positions of authority. I am offering you wealth beyond anything your colony could provide. I am offering you technology that would advance your entire species by centuries. Your Majesty, I appreciate the offers, I really do. But I do not want land on another planet. I like my workshop here. I do not want titles or authority over people. I am just a mechanic, and wealth would not mean much to me because I already have what I need. As for technology, that should be a decision made by leaders and scientists, not by me." Verk stared at Ben for a long moment, then did something unexpected. He laughed. It was a deep, genuine sound that echoed across the landing area. "You are either the wisest human I have ever met or the strangest, perhaps both." He placed his large hand on Ben's shoulder. The weight was significant but not painful. "Very well. If you will not accept traditional rewards, then I offer you something else. I declare you an honorary member of the royal family of the Zynthian Empire. You are brother to my daughter, son to me. You will always have a home among my people, and you will always be welcome in my palace. You honor my family with your character, Ben Cooper. Now I must ask you something important. Will you accompany us to the flagship? My daughter wishes you to see our vessel, and I wish to speak with you further about your people." "Okay," he agreed, "but I have never been on a spaceship before, so I might need some guidance." The interior was beautiful, with walls that seemed to glow from within, and floors so smooth they looked like mirrors. Zynthian warriors and crew members stopped to stare as Lyra led Ben through the corridors. Some looked curious, others suspicious, but none showed hostility after seeing that their princess walked beside him as an equal. They entered a large chamber that Ben realized was a throne room. It was magnificent, with a high ceiling and windows that showed the stars beyond. Verk sat upon a throne of carved crystal, and Lyra stood beside him. Ben stood before them, very aware of the court officials and warriors who lined the walls, all watching him. "Ben Cooper," Verk began formally. "Your actions have not only saved my daughter, but have also opened a door between our peoples. I propose formal diplomatic contact between the Xinthian Empire and humanity. With your permission, I would like to begin that contact here, with your colony, using you as a bridge between our cultures. We would be honored, Your Majesty. This is the kind of wisdom I want guiding first contact between our peoples. Will you help us? But if you think I can help humans and Xinthians understand each other better, then yes, I will try." Xinthian ships remained in orbit, and delegations began traveling between the colony and the flagship. Human governments sent their best diplomats to meet with King Verk. Scientists exchanged information carefully, both sides excited and cautious about what they might learn from each other. Lyra chose to stay on Carthan 7 during this initial period, working alongside Ben to help both species understand each other. She taught humans about Xinthian customs, explaining their warrior culture and their deep sense of honor. Ben helped translate human concepts like compassion and empathy in ways that made sense to Xinthian thinking. The Xinthian Empire shared medical technology that could heal injuries and diseases that had plagued humanity for generations. In return, humans shared agricultural techniques that could help feed struggling Xinthian colony worlds. Both sides benefited, and both sides began to see each other not as alien and strange, but as potential allies. Ben's workshop became an unofficial meeting place. Xinthian officers would stop by to ask him questions about human culture. Human scientists would visit to examine the equipment Lyra had from her escape pod, with her permission. Ben found himself in the middle of something much bigger than he ever imagined, but Lyra was always there to help him navigate the complexity. King Verk visited the workshop several times. He seemed to enjoy talking with Ben, asking him questions about human philosophy and values. "You see beings in need, and you help them without asking what you might gain," Verk observed during one visit. "This is rare among the species we have encountered. Your people may be less advanced in technology, but you are advanced in ways that matter more." When he arrived, he found not just Verk and Lyra, but representatives from a dozen other alien species who had heard about the human who saved a Xinthian princess.